I didn't even get a chance to put out no video yesterday. The man has been super busy. I'm waking up earlier now, like 5 o'clock in the morning, trying to do some different adjustments in the life, trying to change up a little bit, be a little bit more productive. Wake up in the morning, eat, read some scriptures, then, go to the park, come back, eat some more, go to the park, come back, and then I got to finish up this wall that I'm, installing. Anyway, that's not your issue. What we got to talk about today about my sisters are some of the greatest motivators in this world, on this earth. The biggest motivators. The ones who will absolutely give you that encouragement, that inspiration, those talks to be able to keep you moving, to keep you doing the things that you need to do. And they do that from when you're day one, from you're yay big, when you're a little one. I remember my mother talking to me about different things as it related to just the world and life and, things that I needed to pay attention to as it related to being very caring, helping out others, even that whole old stuff of like, helping somebody across the street. If you see somebody who's having issues and they're getting their groceries out of the car or something like that, you go up to them and you ask them, hey, listen, is there something I can help you with? You need some help or whatever? Being aware. My mother always taught me that stuff, and then I had certain stuff with my aunt. My aunt used to teach us about our history. My name comes from a great Egyptian king. All my cousins have great Egyptian king names. My son has a great Egyptian king name. And so we were taught about our history. And what that did is that enabled us to be able to come up and live a whole different type of lifestyle than what other folks may have been able to live. And that's just because we were instilled with that confidence. We were instilled with that kingship, that royalty. We were taught how to be the best that we possibly can be. And we were learning that at a young age because we learned about other folks that were before us, generations before us, ancestors before us. We learned that stuff. So when I say that my sisters are some of the biggest motivators, what they say, behind every great man is a woman. Well, for sure, when it comes down to my sisters, behind every great black man is a great black woman. And you can see that in the dynamics as it relates to a lot of the men that are in the quote unquote limelight or quote unquote successful. You have entertainers, you have athletes, you have, scholars, you have journalists, you have all these different factors or these different sets that are in the world that you have, that you may see that a black man has been very prominent in. And a lot of times what you hear is some of those stories, not all stories, but you hear some of the stories where these men will tell you that maybe they grew up in a single parent household. And normally, a lot of times, it's the woman. It's very, I don't want to say it is kind of rare as it relates to that. The man has been able to be that single parent, but there are, I'm sure, exceptions. But a lot of times it's the single black woman who was in a household. And these men, that's why it's so funny when I hear this nonsense about, women being weak and, they don't have the strength and they can't teach a man how to be a man and all this other stuff. But yet, a lot of these folks that are quote unquote successful in that eye, and when I say quote unquote successful, because I don't want anybody to ever think that success means that you have to reach this certain stage in your life. Success for me is just being self-sufficient. Across the board, be self-sufficient. You know what I'm saying? If you can be self-sufficient where you're not having to depend on anybody else and you could take care of your responsibilities, you're a success to me. So that's why I say quote unquote successful as far as You know, I don't ever want to put other folks on this pedestal. Yes, they may have achieved something that folks admire, and, you know, they're in the limelight and they've got a lot of pressure and things like that, but their faults in their own life where maybe they're not as self-sufficient as they appear to be. Maybe they have some shortcomings that you don't have, and you're not even in the limelight. You're just a regular person. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. Anyway, so what you see is, if you look at a lot of these stories, if you hear the backstories of a lot of these folks that are in the limelight, they will tell you that they had a mom, or they had a sister, or they had a wife, or they had a girlfriend, or whatever. Black sister, one of my sisters, and they were the motivators that kept them focused, gave them that encouragement, allowed them to believe in themselves, were the ones who stayed down with them. So that's why I say that my sisters are some of the greatest motivators, because they have produced some of the most known and recognizable people that you would see on this earth, that have affected the world, that inspire the world, that motivate the world. That came from that experience and that nourishment, or that nurturing, or that being raised by that black woman. That black woman from the beginning was speaking into the ear, even some of the, and I don't want to take away anything from my sisters who are in the limelight as well. Even the ones that you see in the limelight, some of the sisters that have been known for their contributions. Same thing. You had some black woman, whether they want to say it's their grandmother, like I said, it was their aunt, their mom, some other friend, someone contributed, someone gave those nuggets, someone encouraged them along the way to get to the point that they're at. And they don't ever forget. That's why when they have those, you know, interviews and stuff like that, they speak about that. They speak about the fact that they had these folks in their corner, and those folks helped them get to where they were at. So, like I said, man, as it relates to my sisters, man, I mean, the perspective that I'm giving you is a perspective that many folks don't want to highlight. They don't want to highlight this stuff, man. They want to go with the other stuff. You know what I mean? And that's the stuff that sells. That's the stuff that allows people to continue to have the fear and to have their negative, you know, perception of my sisters. But again, like I always say, you're missing out because you're not around my sisters, and you don't realize that this is why you see such an influence around the world, because it started with my sisters. My sisters were the key ingredients to get these folks that you admire and you're so inspired by. Came from my sisters doing the due diligence, committing themselves, and taking care of their responsibilities. And they did that through all stresses, all strife, all tribulations. And they did it, and they still rised above all of the nonsense that they still have to go through. Anyway, I gotta go to the park. Like I always tell my cats on my other video, I gotta go to the park and go do what I gotta do. I'm gonna catch you on the next one. Peace out.